Hello and welcome, if you're live especially, to the latest transfer podcast. We're doing it to ourselves again. And on the back of some less than stellar news with relation to some of the stories that have been breaking recently, we have some Liverpool updates. You're going to be all too aware of them, especially if you're a social media junkie like most of us are. There were a few things that obviously got dangled out there, were very exciting. We touched on them in the last show, and it's like they've been taken away from us, Dave, because we were bold boys and we don't deserve nice things. It's frustrating, and during the week, I have been harangued for being using words like embarrassing around our current transfer strategy, and lads are coming out of the woodwork, kind of lads that you might say, if you were going to be a little bit if you're going to be a little bit critical, they fall into that top red, I support the current thing, trust the system, trust in Arne, trust in FSG. Well, look, we're top of the league, aren't we? Kind of thing. And it's like you're not allowed to say, Dave, that yes, we are, and we'd like to stay fucking there. And we'd also like to stay there next year. And what you do if you want to do that is you get stronger when you're strong. That's a long-winded introduction. Here's Dave Davis. How are you, my friend?
I'm currently working through everything in my mind, and it's kind of like in modern culture. I'll give a reference, people. Last week, me and Trev gave you transfer links, a new hope. Yeah. This week, we've moved on to episode 2, FSG, the accountants, the patch journos strike back. That's where we are a little bit. And to be honest, it's sort of the same cycle, isn't it, Trev? But here we are with a couple of weeks of the transfer window left to go. Is anyone confident anything gets done for Liverpool? I think we know the answer to that.
It's grim, man. It's grim. Let's not try to put anything else in front of people. We are clearly, by the fact that we do this show, kind of transfer junkies. We enjoy this side of the game, and it's been a dark enough sort of pursuit for us as Liverpool fans. Now, we do a transfer show, so we get to talk about the lunatic asylum that is Chelsea, and we get to laugh at Manchester United's strategies, and these things keep us sane, God bless them. But when it comes to Liverpool, and again, like I said, strengthening when you are strong, that has been a real failing. And there has been this pattern, man. Again, I outlined it in a tweet, which was overly, all caps, boomer, sort of faux stressed out. But the pattern is here, man. And it goes like this. Let me bounce this off you. Tell me if I'm being ridiculous or over the top. The Reds get linked with a top high-profile player that gets us all excited. The link is then confirmed by Ornstein or Joyce, and then the other one confirms it as well. Next thing you know, there is another club, a sizable club of some sort, who are in the running for said player. The next thing you know, there's an announcement from Jimbo Pierce or some of the other local lads saying Liverpool have no interest in player X. And it doesn't matter if it goes on for the entirety of the summer or a 48-hour thing like Feature was. It is the pattern. And I'm not an idiot. I can see it. It's not like it's a conspiracy theory. It's constant. What's your feeling around why this continues to happen? Do you think it's as simple? I'm going to offer you 2 options. Bat them both away. Tell me they're nonsense. First option, I think, we just don't want to spend big money. And if someone else gets involved, then we are going to have to get into a bidding war, and our lot will not do that. That's theory 1. Theory 2 is that these things weren't real in the first place. And this is where we get into lunatic asylum stuff, where if you can't trust what you're hearing from the likes of Ornstein and Joyce, then you know what are we even doing here? Because we have been told that they are the gold standard. But this theory runs that those stories are fed to the press for reasons. And some lads manage to spin it that it's propaganda that Liverpool want to be linked with these great clubs, because, Liverpool are a pathetic little club who could never be linked with these great players. that one has very little legs for me, although people believe it vociferously, and especially if they are the kind of lads who were popping up last week in the comments here, very staunch FSG outists, they believe this theory. Are you partial to either, or do you have an alternative one for me as to why this pattern keeps occurring?
I am partial to a good conspiracy theory, as you know, and I do sometimes enjoy hearing little bits just for fun from the people that would turn up at public floggings back in the day and want hanging brought back and all those types of characters who are just a little bit wild. I don't mind hearing from them just for fun. However, yeah, these Camp 2 people, Trev, and the famous PR thing that goes on back and forth, honestly, it is number one, isn't it? Like, we've seen it. And if people don't believe that Joyce, Ornstein, these type of names get good sourced info from reliable sources, if you think they're all just complete chances, and you're going to think that anyway, but come on. And quite often, like you said, there's links, and then as soon as it gets to a certain price or a certain way, two things happen. Liverpool either, as you said, backtrack. Oh, we were never interested in this player. Like, come on, it's out there. You clearly were. You've just blown it one way or another, or it's gone beyond your price tag, or whatever it is. Or the second thing is, as has happened in recent times, that we have to be honest, Caicedo, Zubimendi, we can't get it over the line. The player doesn't choose us. That there's evidence to that as well. But the long story short is, Trev, these come out. There's clearly substance in them. Whatever it is, Liverpool just don't get deals done quite often.
And they don't get them done in the same pattern. And you mentioned the names. Let's not fool ourselves. We go back as far as Tchouameni. You go to Caicedo. You go to Bellingham. You go to Mountain most recently. You go to help me out here. Even if you want to go all the way back to Marco Reus, there are situations where there's interminable links, all the best noises in the world, and the most recent one, of course, is Kvaratskhelia, which was so exciting for people like myself and yourself to think, here's this top-end footballer who is pulling up trees in Serie A, the best player at the club at the top of Serie A, and we have an opportunity to get our sticky little grubby paws on him. Wouldn't that be great? And that is, I think, probably our best story to start with, because it was the one that was most exciting to me. And then the pattern happened, Dave. The pattern happened. PSG were reputedly happy to honor every aspect of his contract. And then, before you knew it, James Pearce was saying that Liverpool were not going to be pursuing any deal for this player. It was a disappointing one, man. It was, because you could see that he could be quite transformative for us in many ways.
I get this, and I get why people are a bit sort of frustrated, gutted, whatever word you want to insert there, whatever adjective. It's almost like, and I said to you before we came live, if you're watching this via YouTube, you know that Roy Hodgson meme, the one where it goes like, oh, and then he kind of disappoints. Watch this, because it's kind of like, Ornstein's linked to Kvaratskhelia, an elite talent. He's going to PSG type of thing. That's exactly what has happened. And like you said, it now comes out that, Liverpool were never really going to make a serious bid, however it's been phrased. We don't really care. I mean, people are going to be saying he's not actually at the Parc des Princes yet, and he's not, like, come on. We know what's happening type of thing. Like, it just is another frustrating bit exactly along the reams of what you said. And maybe the biggest disappointment with this, Trev, is this is an elite player. It seemed opportunistic with the fee looking like Dr. Evil there with the fingers. So there's just extra disappointment on it. But it's just another day in Liverpool life, isn't it?
Yeah, and just to lean into the fact that there were reasons why we were excited. You know, yes, we have a couple of very good left wingers at the moment, but Cody has the potential to be capable of playing more central and also dovetailing very nicely with someone like Farah, or alternating like he is with Diaz at the moment. And Diaz looks like he could be for the Hills in the summer. So this is why everyone was getting excited, because it seemed to make all kinds of sense. And I convinced myself, Dave, and I still remain convinced to an extent, that Liverpool is a destination club. And as a destination club, they are higher on the pecking order than PSG. And so you come down to one simple thing: agents getting involved and heads being turned because of cash. And that is disappointing. And I'm not judging the kid at all, but, it's disappointing for us, because we are never going to be in a position to say, oh, we'll just pay you all the money. Don't worry about that aspect of it. If that's what you're worried about, we'll never be in with a shout for those guys. Now, I can already hear the trust the system guys going, well, we don't want a prick like that anyway. We at our club with our values, we don't want such a money grubbing materialist. Come on. What do you think is happening with the three big boys at the moment with their contracts? Do you think they're haggling over, how many scones will be left out for the public in their honor every day? No, they want bottom line money for themselves, because they get one go round at this. I'm not judging the players. I'm simply saying, because of that bottom line, that's probably going to be, and simply may well have been, the reason why a lot of these things don't happen for us, Dave.
Yeah, but it's you feel it's come down to money. I mean, there'll obviously be reports of what he's paid with PSG, but however we dress it up, like the fee that's talked about as well, Trev, I mean, somewhere between 60 to 65 million quid, wants to go, 2 years left on his deal. It's just ticking all the boxes. So, yeah, it's just going to disappoint everyone, this, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, it is. And why not kick the show off with a big sort of wet balloon landing on your head? Because we're just going to roll on with it. Because even the one that you and I were kind of quietly giddy about, not because the guy is going to come in and be an immediate first teamer, but because we were loving the concept of our nerds winning the silent battles in the background to emerge on top and give us those margins of excellence that push us to the top again. We were looking at a lad who's playing second-tier German football, who's Greek, who's got great numbers, and all our nerds were saying, this is the guy for us, Mr. Tzimas. And that too has been poo-pooed by Bad News Pierce during the week. Like, one is bad enough, but two, and when we can't even have the hipster option, I despair, Dave. I despair.
Get your Roy Hodgson gif ready, because it's there is as well. So yeah, this one, James Pierce comes out, doesn't he, and says Liverpool have no interest in pursuing a deal for Stefanos Tzimas. And as you said, we talked about it last time. This feels like a big nerd one. They would love it. It's so hipster, isn't it? Like, on loan, a Greek from PAOK in the Bundesliga 2 at Nuremberg. I mean, this kid is the footballing version of like avocado with prawns in it. It's hipster galore, basically. Like, it's all set up. Now, obviously, I'm going to say this clearly, because I see people are like, oh, Sam Maguire's right, or James Pierce is wrong, vice versa, etc. We know how good an info Sam Maguire gets. We know this is well-resourced, well-researched, whatever you want to call it. And funnily enough, Plettenberg came out as well, didn't he? And others saying, yeah, there's absolutely things in this. Liverpool are very much looking at this kid. And as Sam reported there, they know what's required. They were trying to get ahead of it. No doubts about it at all. This one for James Pierce saying no interest. Obviously, we've been digging today to try and get like, what is going on? Why are we getting wildly different things? So the general info, the update that we got, and we're not trying to claim ITK, because obviously that ship has sailed with all this. The info we've got, though, Trev, today is, as we told or talked before, a lot of Premier League clubs are interested in this kid. Good Premier League clubs. And let's be honest, if Tzimas comes to us, where is he in the pecking order? And I know people are going to be shouting like, who's going all this? But if it was right now, 6th, 5th, maybe at best type of thing, isn't he, realistically? So his minutes are going to be difficult to come by. If he goes to other Premier League clubs, can get guaranteed minutes, can't he, pretty much? Get regular, be clocking up like 25, maybe more games a season. Now, in a kid's development like this, I kind of get that. I think most people will get that at the same time as well. There's nothing wrong with saying Liverpool are an elite club and they should be getting the Kvaratskhelias of this world. I also like the idea we go for a Tzimas of the world. I like the idea of having both. I think that's a smart transfer strategy. However, if you can't offer guaranteed playing time to the kid, I kind of get it. But do you know what I would like, Trev? I would like to stop after doing my Roy Hodgson meme impression. That would just be good. So, yeah, that's the other side to it.
You know, there was a period of time where I think these boys were at their absolute peak, and you would hear about a transfer day of, day before. Fab's the obvious one, best example of it. But there are others. And even something like Luis Diaz is kind of done and dusted before you even had a chance to look around. Those kind of deals. You're so right about the ITK bus having left the station, that the ship has sailed. Somebody then went to the bottom of the ocean and blew it up further, and now it's in a crater at the bottom of the ocean. There is apparently, even for lads who have proper reputations, lads like our old ex-colleague Sam that you mentioned, lads who have national clout like Ornstein and Joyce, nobody seems to know, man. Nobody seems to know. So I agree with you, and it's. I think I'm not irrational to be pissed off by the pattern, and I'm not irrational to be pissed off by being dragged into the Roy Hodgson gif again and again and again. And I think that's fair enough to say without it being too much of a cry. One of the links that hasn't been shot down in flames yet, though, is Semenyo. Now, unless I'm very much mistaken, young Davis, you had Semenyo last year, and it's not new news to us that we're interested in Semenyo, but my God, people were breaking it like it was a sort of, the second coming of insider info. Talk to us a little bit about what you think is happening with Semenyo, if anything. And Dave, is anything real, man?
It's just, God, where do you start? I mean, you're right. We mentioned this last year, and we said last summer, sorry, in the transfer show. It is last year, technically. It was 2024, wasn't it? That Semenyo is one that he's probably a player that people like. Semenyo, Bournemouth, like, shut up type of thing. But the nerds liked him. He profiled quite well. He wasn't quite in the supernova or going supernova category, but he profiled well. And me and Bart's ran him on transfer market metrics, Trev, to be fair. And by the time Bart's was done, them glasses were getting sprayed down with that because he was getting quite excited about what he was seeing from Semenyo at the same time. I mean, he scored an absolute belter last night, didn't he, at the same time as well? Absolutely. I mean, the guy's got a lot of stats he's got from a lower league background. There's a lot to like. Do I think there's anything in this? Get your Roy Hodgson gif ready again type of thing. So I just think this is one that, and we've checked, and if there is, fair play, some people won't like it. We can't get anything that anything's moving forward with Semenyo. That would be a lie. But I kind of like him. Do we have anything on it? Get your Roy Hodgson. No.
Before we go to people who are moving away from the club, I know I said I'd keep this show short, Dave. I'm already making an absolute royal bollocks out of it. I apologize to you for saying we could deliver a half-hour show, because we were not going to be able to do that. We cannot walk away because people are going to be pissed off if we do. We cannot walk away without making some reference to the current, what young Hendrik described on Daily Red today as blip. And the, in terms of points gained and all the rest of it, there is a world in which Liverpool are now out of sight and the league is essentially won. And I'm not crying that it's not. And yes, positivity, Twitter. I do understand that we have a massive, comparatively big lead. We have games in hand, and we have been generally playing well. I do trust the players. I do trust the manager. But these contracts are adding to the bollocks that we're having to deal with, where we're all saying, can we please strengthen this squad now and maybe allow some of these lads not to load up too many minutes in their legs and maybe be good towards the end of the season? Like we were able to manage Ibu at the start. Imagine if we could manage him throughout a season. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But apparently not. So we can put the transfers with Liverpool, the incoming potential, to one side for a second, and let's just talk briefly about these contracts. I know you're going to have very little to add to it in terms of insider info. At least I'm guessing, unless you've heard something I haven't. But it's always funny to me. In the comments thread there, I did see out of the corner of my eye that one or two people are very bullish on the fact that Virgil and Mo are done. And I'm hearing these stories as well. That's all they are. Yeah. And if we've learned anything on this podcast, children, it's that we should not believe stories so far. So what about the situation with them? Has anything changed in your belief around what's going to happen based on the games, based on the results? I mean, people can put 2 and 2 together and get 17 if they want to look at the form of certain players and extrapolate from that. I don't know how useful that is, Dave. I don't think it's very useful at all. But long term, it could become, like I said to you this day last week, could become a bit of a toxic situation if results go the wrong way. You know how this happens. You'd have to be a naive idiot to believe that it couldn't get toxic if the results hit a wall for us. It can be harder then to get back up if we're not all completely together. Any latest info on this? Any latest gut feeling on this? Any latest insight from yourself at all on the contracts?
Being honest, even chased it today. It's kind of, there's the element, like you said, Trev. There's people who we get good info off saying, it's their briefing is that it's good with Van Dijk, Salah's, all this type of thing. But this is important. Nothing's getting done. Nothing's getting signed. And then when the players are asked directly, you have Virgil going, no, there's no update. We have Mo saying, nothing close in that regard. And they've gone quieter, you could argue, recently. But I'm just starting to get to the point where I am very surprised we are on the 15th of January. There was 2 weeks of this window left, and not one of them is done. Now, a lot of people like us have got our suspicions about it's probably not going to be all 3, despite what we would want. But to not have a single one on the board is a little bit troubling. I think you can say that in best case scenario, because you'd want at least one in the bag. I'm going to be honest. I saw some people sort of tweeting this or suggesting that. I just think Mo Salah missed chances last night. It does happen, as it proves. Even the best missed chances. That just happens at times in that regard. So I'm not really putting anything on that. Mo Salah is still a demigod in my eyes. And I don't know why some people were sort of calling for him the other night. The best missed them. Virgil van Dijk as well, elite. I am desperate for them to sign. Still the same suspicions from as we've talked about on shows before. I still think we know what's going to happen with Trent. We're all just sort of gearing up to it, shall we say. But long story short, no real updates, I'm afraid. I wish I could say there was.
Just to give a little bit of added heft to your last statement there around the third player, probably the most problematic one for most people in terms of how they're thinking about it and why they're thinking what they're thinking. Nice to see Simon Brundish in the chat there. God bless you, Si. Fair play. Thanks for the comment there. Just reading it out. When he reckons when the Trent news hits, it's going to be catastrophic. If he just came out on January 1st and was honest, it might have been a softer landing. And dude, I could not agree more with you. All we wanted was for him to say a thing. Regardless of what he said, we could then begin to deal with it as a fan base, as a team, as a club, and move on. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that we're privy to all the details, and maybe there is a certain quiet knowledge of what's going to happen behind the scenes, and they're all getting their heads around it for what it's worth. Who knows? Who knows? I would be surprised knowing how dressing rooms work that, there isn't a level of discourse about this every day, Dave. So let's just see how it goes. But I do, like Simon, I do fear that it may have a sort of a bad effect if the news breaks in a way we don't want it to. And it's going to now anyway, isn't it? There are some people who are on the fringes of the red squad, and we're obviously looking at deals for loans. I saw Jayden Danns come on there recently, and I said this to you last year. I said it to you. I said to anyone who'd listened to me on the back of the appearances we saw from him on the cup run. He's got it. Whatever it is, that kid has it. Yeah. He's got the physicality. He can finish. He's positive in his work. He's confident. He's for me, just on the sample size I saw, head and shoulders above any of those kids that we saw come through, because he was able to do the end product part. And so I'd love to see him stay around. But of course, better minds than mine will have an idea on what's best for Jayden in terms of his development, just given how misfiring our Uruguayan book is. I'd like to have the option of a young boy on the bench who's talented and really up for making a point. But, I do understand that he will be amongst the ones who are linked with loans away. Who are those players, Dave, and what are the clubs they're being linked with?
Yeah, there's quite a few playing for the under-21s tonight. It might have kicked off as we speak, actually. Against Slavia Prague in some sort of invitational, it is. But yeah, I mean, a few have gone, as we know, that Calvin Ramsey to Kilmarnock. That's not looking the wisest investment of funds right now, is it? Cade Gordon, I should say, has come back. Liverpool agreed to terminate that with Norwich, and it's fully expected he will go out on loan again. Now, digging sort of into that, he just wasn't really getting minutes. Cade Gordon, they still do, so I don't want to sound this as a negative. They have real high hopes for Cade Gordon. They got him from Derby for a pretty penny, didn't they, back in the day? The problem Cade Gordon had is, I'm sure someone medical's going to pick me up on this, but sort of growing pains. Do you remember, like, Gerrard had them quite a bit as he tried to develop and that way? And that's what sort of the info is, growing pains. I know there's going to be a medical definition or something. So that's kind of hindered his development. They've still got hopes for him, so he'll go out on loan. But yeah, as you mentioned there, we said before, James McConnell's got plenty of loan offers on the table. It's all about which one, or if the club want to take those forward. Jayden Danns as well. Yeah, there's links coming out the woodwork galore with Jayden Danns. And like you said about Jayden Danns, Trev, whatever it is, he's got it. You kind of expect him to bury one in the cop end, don't you? And then just pick up a microphone in the corner and go, I'm going to take this moment. And just while everyone's got the iPhone out on the cop type of it. He's just got something like the X Factor, whatever it is type of thing. Like, the kid's special in that regard. So, yeah, of course, if you're a championship club who's not got a striker, of course you're looking at Jayden Danns. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so there's loads of info coming there. The question is, for those two, what does Arne Slot and what do Liverpool want to do? They've got the option if they want to send them on loan. Do they want to keep them around the first team squad? I don't know. But if they want to send them, the option's there.
Yeah, as you say, of course, the option's there. People are going to be interested in players like that. Did I associate you on Twitter now with that gif of the baby with the...
Yeah.
That's exactly what I associate. That's amazing that you went there. If you want to see a textbook definition of what sarcasm is, you should have a look in the chat where John P has referred to some comments made previously with the comment, "Careful, guys, let's not pick on Hughes. Don't you know he's working really hard under tough constraints?" with an exclamation mark. That could be, maybe I'm doing you wrong, John. Maybe you meant that earnestly, but I think we know what you meant there. Fair play to you. There is one sort of bridge-like story that leads us away from Liverpool and out into the Premier League. And obviously, interestingly, to our closest rivals for the title. theoretically, and that is Arsenal, who are now about to rescue Mountain Nance from his Highland hell and bring him to the bosom of their London paradise. And apparently he's up for it until, a couple of months pass and he realizes that he hates London and he's longing for the Sociedad scene again. But it kind of hits home, doesn't it? Kind of stings a bit, this one. Not necessarily because they got this player and he'd be so good for us, blah, blah, blah. We'd all be excited if we'd gotten him. I'm not going to belittle the fact that Arsenal look like they're going to do this deal. But just, it stings a little bit because it reminds us that here's one of those guys that went in the pattern. The big links, the strong connections, the reputable journalists, and then dead. And then Liverpool are not going to be pursuing this via Jimbo. And here he is pitching up. And it looks, judging by the big smiley head on Lego Head last night, it looks like Lego Head's going to spend some more money, pushing him closer and closer to the 900 million. Who knows? Maybe he'll get to the billion before that trophy ever lands with him there at Arsenal. What do we know about this deal and how real it is? Is it more paper talk, or do you think this is one that has real legs?
Yeah, I think this one's got real legs. Do I believe it's an absolute cert? There's a little bit to that. I mean, it's come out from various sources, haven't they? Ornstein says Arsenal are looking at bringing Zubimendi in the summer. Now, I don't know if they've just adapted the PowerPoint and stuck the shard in place of mountains to try and trick him that way or something. Like, I don't know how they sort of piece this together. But yeah, that's definitely there. And sort of digging a bit further, we mentioned before, Thomas Partey, we won't say too much for the lawyers, has 6 months left to go on his deal. So he's probably going to go in that regard. So they naturally need a DM because remember, anyone's formation, Arsenal like to play 7 DMs across the middle. So you need to be careful and have that protection, don't you? So that's what Arteta adores that way, isn't it, in that regard? The only thing, Trev, sort of digging on this a little bit more is like, yeah, absolutely. Nothing is definite. The strong belief still in Spain is Zubimendi ends up at Real this summer. I mean, what would be more a transfer saga than we had the Roy Hodgson meme of this last summer, followed by 2 days ago, James Pearce put in it, and fair play to James, he wrote, I'm not down his source, added this to the David Ornstein article about it, saying the Liverpool take, Liverpool are not going to go back in because they've moved on with Gravenberch, which obviously caused people to want to set things on fire and do certain various acts, etc. But I just wonder, wouldn't it be funny if after all this, Mountain Boy just ended up in Madrid after all that, wouldn't it? Having been linked and courted by every single English club, how funny would that be?
It would almost be inevitable. It's the classic Bayern move, isn't it? You know, good player at other German club, lots of people interested. He's going to end up at Bayern. It just happens. And Real are that, if not bigger, in Spain. So yeah, can I take a second to address Cam Branch, who is slandering me in the comments, referring to me as Downey the hypocrite because I am a comparatively recent transfer acolyte. I used to be a guy who preached about how he didn't want to engage with it. And the reason I didn't want to engage with it is because I wanted to have my summers off and I didn't want to think about stuff like that. And I think that made sense. But now I'm older and wiser and I understand via the guru that is young Davis there, the transfers are fucking fun. Unless, you're Liverpool. Last word, as always, to you, brother. I'd like to say we'll be back soon with some great uplifting Liverpool news, but I don't believe that until I see it. What is your final thought?
My final thought is we're the same as we were in summer with 2 weeks to go. We are desperate to be wrong on this, just to be clear, for anyone starts with the ITK or we've got agendas or any of that nonsense. We would love nothing more than in a week or so to say Liverpool have dropped the dime on a left back. Liverpool have dropped the dime on a, like, we would love to. We really would. We think it would make such a difference, even just to be talking about, heaven forbid, renewing our existing players. Do you know what I mean? We would adore talking about that, waxing lyrical about the stars that we have. Confidence on that. Get ready for the Roy Hodgson meme one more time.
And to echo that, I do think we would love it, Kevin Keegan style. But I'm actually picturing Kevin Keegan leaning over the sideboards there, the advertising hoardings, with his head hanging as the league disappears from them. In terms of the signings only, I do think we have enough in us to keep our noses in front and win this league. I just really, really would like us to be able to think that we can go on a bit of a run here. I had a conversation to this end on Twitter today, and I'm not sure I did anything to convince the chap I was speaking to, who was more of an in the moment, celebrate the guys now. And, you know, I know what he was saying. I think other people might interpret it as a little bit condescending. I chose not to. Of course, I want to celebrate now. Of course, I love the guys we have now, and I actually believe they can do it. But I would love to think we were setting up the dynasty of success that we haven't had. And the club will actually set the blueprint for. So let's hope we do have something positive to chat about next week with relation to the contracts, if nothing else. But for now, from us, 15-minute show when we said we'd do half an hour. I've been Trev Downey. That's Dave Davis. Talk to you soon.